Before we begin today's episode of Bardown Beauties, we want to first acknowledge the truly tragic news of Kobe Bryant's passing. Kobe, along with his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, and several others perished in a helicopter accident in Calabasas, California on Sunday. Kobe demanded the best of himself and the best of those around him. He changed the way the game of basketball is played, and beyond the talent he possessed on the court, he exemplified what it meant to face your challenges head on. Our hearts go out to his friends, family, and all of those that knew him, along with the families of all the other deceased. Hello, everybody. We are back for episode 5, presented by SodaStick.com. I'm Jessi Pierce, alongside Alexis Pearson and Fred Meinfert. A lot to talk about this week, despite it being a relatively hockey-free week with the All-Star break for the Minnesota Wild here. Pat Micheletti will be joining us as our special guest to talk just that about Wild hockey. But Alexis, how about you and I chat on them a little bit? Do you think this bye week is maybe a good thing for our home team?
I think it's a good thing for everybody. I mean, the guys obviously who get to go to the All-Star game love being a part of that, and it's a fun time for the ones involved. But for the guys that aren't involved in the All-Star game, you know, you either get a vacation, which is nice because then you can relax, or the ones who've been dealing with injuries or just being a little bit banged up. At this point in the season, to be honest, everyone's banged up. You know, it's you're over halfway through the season, and obviously everything hurts a little bit more, especially if you're not in the spot of the standings that you want to be in, which the Wild would be one of those teams who aren't performing as well as they would like to be, or I should say they're not in an area of the standings that they're comfortable with right now. So it's a good mental break. It's a good physical break. And there's been years past where the Wild have desperately needed this break to get through some injuries. They've been luckier this year that they haven't had any drastic injuries to any key players yet. They've had a couple guys out for short periods of time, but last year there was guys out for like months. This year they haven't had to deal with that, but I know the guys are looking forward to a bit of a break and to recoup and then come back for the remainder of the season, hopefully stronger than the beginning of the season.
I mean, it's a grind. We talked about it in our last episode. It is a grind, and the break is nice for everybody involved, and it's nice, especially. But the Wild know that they need to come back and get the points. It's
Yeah.
not really a time for them to rest comfortably. I mean, they're positioned right now 11th in the West at 52 points, and it's really make or break time when they come back. They managed to get points in 3 of 4 games before the break, which was great. Looked a little uneasy there against Detroit, which is a atrocious team. I am sorry to say, Red Wings fans, that was a
Yeah.
very hard game to watch, especially when the Wild ended the first period. But Bruce had said it then, and I'm sure he'll be reiterated plenty, that they cannot afford to lose very many games in the second half here.
Yeah, well, especially after that tough loss against the Panthers, you know, a few nights before the Red Wings, you're coming in against a team who you got to get 2 points. You have to
Mm.
get 2 points. And after that first period, I was feeling a little nervous. I think the guys were feeling a little bit nervous. The fans were feeling a little bit nervous. And then they come out and they finish the game as they should have, getting the 2 points, beating the Red Wings going into the break. And, you know, the flip side of getting this break is that not only do you get the chance to rest, but there's the downside of you get that anxiety of, I just want to play. I want to get those points, especially for the teams that are fighting for those playoff spots that are on the outside looking in or right on the bubble. You want that opportunity to keep playing and keep climbing up the standings. So I think there's a little bit of anxiety there in breaks like this. And you only hope that, the guys are able to put that to the side, take the chance to rest, because truly there's nothing that they can do about it right now. And everyone's on a break, not just one team or one person. So you have to look at it that way and hope that, okay, when you come back, you'll have your opportunity to continue to climb the standings, try to take some high points from, before the break and carry that with you into post break hockey.
Right. And it's nice that the NHL kind of finally got it together. There were times in seasons past where the Wild would be on a break and they would come back in against a team that had the first half or, the second half as a
Right.
break. And they were playing against teams that had been playing games all week. So
Yeah.
it's nice to see that they're going to come back. They have the Boston Bruins first. Charlie Coyle makes another return back to Minnesota. So it'll be nice that they have an opponent that was also kind of on the same rest and the same break as them. But like you said, Alexis, it's going to be crucial for them to come in strong. They're technically still a bubble team. I mean,
Mhm.
they're out, but they're still on that bubble, which is a position very familiar for the Minnesota Wild. Would you rather see them kind of tank? I mean, everybody keeps talking about it and you
Mhm.
can't avoid that conversation, but do you want them to just say, you know what, let's build for the future? Or would you rather see them make a push?
I This is such a hard question to answer because I have one answer from a fan perspective, and I have an answer as a member of the media and kinda looking at it with a clear state of mind because as a fan, you're just delusional all the time, right? You Everything hurts and everything is an exciting moment or a sad moment, and so it's hard to sometimes step away from that aspect of sports and say, "Okay, looking at this logistically, looking at this in a clear state of mind, how do I feel about it?" And what people often think is that rebuilding takes a year. That's not true. Rebuilding takes several
Mhm.
years. Sometimes you'll get lucky and you'll see success within that first, year of rebuilding, but a full rebuild, if you're talking going from bottom of the standings to a Stanley Cup winning team, you're talking about years of work here to get the right trades, to get the right draft picks, to get the right guys from the farm team up into your into the NHL. So it's a long process and there's a lot of pieces that need to get put down at the right time to make it all work. And there's still the chance that you try to rebuild and it doesn't work. There's no
Mhm.
guarantee that just because you tank and you get rid of all of your players and you bring new guys in, you get these draft picks. There's no guarantees that any of that is gonna produce wins or game wins or series wins in the playoffs or a Stanley Cup victory. There's no guarantee. So it's a hard question because obviously you picture it as working and you're like, well, yeah, okay. If we do this and we do that in 2 years, we could win the Stanley Cup. But you could do this and that, and you might not win the Stanley Cup for 15 more years. So it's I think that with Kaprizov coming next year, there's that gleaming light at the end of the tunnel that people are looking forward to. That if we get through this season, whether we make the playoffs or not, we have a player coming who we know is going to produce as long as he
Mhm.
stays healthy, knock on wood, I'm gonna knock on the wood behind me here. As long as he stays healthy, he is gonna get points for this team, and he's gonna get points in a way that the Wild have not seen players get points before. So, I think that there's some changes that could be made that would be beneficial to help set up for the fact that Kaprizov is coming next
To
year.
build
So
around him and put the
exactly. Yep.
focus. Yep. No, I think that's a great point. I mean,
Yeah.
you had mentioned him. I don't think we've seen a player as dynamic as
No.
that since maybe Marion Gabrick is the only one that comes to
Yeah.
mind. That's the last time I remember just watching an elusive, electric,
Yep.
skilled player
Game
in every
changer. Yep.
aspect. I know Minnesota Wild fans have their own angst against him, and that's respected, and I can see that point as well. My mom, for one, hates him, but that's neither here nor there. You can't deny
Yeah.
his ability, and Kaprizov is a step above that even, I think, because in today's game, it's just a different way of playing, and I think he does a phenomenal job. So I'd agree with you there. I think it'd be nice to build around that, and in that sense, build for the future. I don't
Yeah.
see it as the end of the world if the Wild do not make the playoffs again this year. I know
Right.
it's not as fun. I mean, as a writer, that ends my season just as
Yeah.
early too. So
Yeah.
there's, that's not as exciting. The playoffs are. It's a great thing to be a part of, and it's okay to hang your shoulders at not making it, but it's also, it could be for the best. It gives them a better chance at a better draft pick, which the
Mhm.
Wild have not had the
Right.
opportunity to draft
Yeah.
high.
'Cause
So
even when they finished not that great, they've never been the worst team in the league. Like, there's
right.
been times where they've obviously missed the playoffs, there's been times where they've made the playoffs and been out in the first round, but
Hmm.
they've never been, the Detroit Red Wings of 2019, 2020, where they're winning 12 games and that's it. Like
12 games. I just can't believe that. My God.
yeah, so I don't wanna see them tank because watching the team that you cover lose is not fun, watching the team you cheer for as a fan lose is not fun, but at
Mhm.
the same time, you look towards the future and you say, "Okay, what do they have to do to be good in the future?" Because 'Cause I'd rather have one really bad season and just rip the Band-Aid, get it over with, and start to move forward, rather than have 10 seasons like that, and then, at some point, something flips around, so
Right.
it's hard, it's painful, it's not a fun topic to cover because truthfully, no one wants anybody to tank and no team wants to tank.
Mhm.
But you look at it and you say, well, what are the benefits of, maybe missing the playoffs? Or what are the benefits of getting a better draft pick here or being able to make a big trade or free up some cap space and sign, a certain player that the team is maybe missing? But they've made moves to get younger here within the last year. Last year, they were the oldest team in the league. And the trades they made at the trade deadline got the team a little bit younger. Obviously, getting Kaprizov on the team is going to lower the average age of the team as well next year. So they're doing some of the right things, and it might not feel drastic because they're so spread out as far as when changes are coming, and you got a new GM in for this year, and so there's a lot of things happening. And I think that if we just give it a little bit more time, we see how the season finishes. We could see, we talked about it last episode, but we could see a coaching change, by the end of the year, coming into next year. So there's some things that might change here with the next 6 to 8 months, that set up the Wild for a better season next year. But we'll see what happens in the next month as the trade deadline approaches.
What if
And I'm glad
Kaprizov
you
doesn't
mentioned the trade
come?
deadline because that's definite.
What if
I think Fred
Kaprizov
wants to
doesn't
speak.
come? What if he doesn't come?
Fred,
Like that's the thing.
don't.
Everyone's been saying
You're gonna
this.
get wild
Producer.
with pitchforks in your
I
front
had
yard,
to.
Fred.
I had to step up. What if he doesn't come? What if Putin goes to him and says, "You're in Moscow. You're for the Russia team," and he doesn't come?
I mean, devastation
I'm
across
gonna go into hibernation
board.
if that
Yeah.
happens. I can't do it.
I mean, it's a valid
It
point.
is.
They've been waiting and pining for him. And
Yeah.
I mean, I will be frankly a little shocked, I think, because there's always the chance.
Yeah.
Fred's right. I mean, I don't say this very often. Fred, you're right. That's a good point. He might not. I mean, I'm not as concerned about. I think it is. I think he joins the team next year.
I think
Again,
that's
I
why
don't
it's
think
important the Wild get those pieces around him, because I think if he sees that and sees,
get him excited to
yes,
be here.
yes,
Yes,
give him a reason to
absolutely.
want to come play, Do your
Right.
best to finish the season, with some positives, whatever that means, whether that's, making some trades or getting into the playoffs or making a playoff run, if that's an opportunity for them. But finish with some positives, set the team up for some kind of success next year so that Kaprizov wants to come play here. So we're not
Yes.
twisting his arm behind his back and saying, get your
Please,
butt over
yeah.
there.
Us
Make him wanna
Minnesotans
come.
just want to be liked, right?
Yes.
Like, please like us, please be a part of us.
Yes.
You mentioned trades and obviously the trade deadline coming up here at the end of the month already. You got to look at the pieces, and you're gonna hate me, Alexis, and I
Don't
apologize for
say
that.
it. Don't say it.
Marcus Foligno.
No.
I love Marcus Foligno, just not quite as much as you, but like I really enjoy him. He's been so much fun to watch. He's a great leader in the locker room.
Mhm.
A great person. He says what needs to be said.
Yeah.
And he's really stepped up his play too. However, that being said, that also makes him a very tradable piece.
He stepped up his
Unfortunately,
plate too much. Darn you,
yeah.
Marcus Foligno.
Exactly. I mean, I think you got to look at him. You got to look at Jonas Brodin. You've got to look
Yeah.
at Jason Zucker as maybe your three most tradable assets.
Yeah.
I think Miko is another very small possibility. I think Bill Guerin could possibly approach him on waiving that no move clause. But I think those three would be your biggest potential gets on the market. I have a good idea of where you might sit with this, Alexis, but where would you sit, given those three? Who would you place as number one, your money on going possibly?
Well, there's a couple different ways you could approach it. I think we could get the most for Jason Zucker. And I think that's been the case for the past year or so. The Wild came, within seconds of signing a deal with him leaving the team. So we know that there's a possibility that he could be gone because there's teams who've been interested in him. And why wouldn't they be? He's a dynamic player. He's a fast skater. He's got a lot of energy. He's a guy that teams would want to have, playing for them. And so I think the Wild could get the most for Jason Zucker. I think a guy like Marcus Foligno, the way he's been playing, and that's the thing, is that he's played like this before. It's not like this is the first we've ever seen Marcus Foligno have like a streak here where he's playing well, but he's the kind of guy who he reminds me of a slightly better version of Cal Clutterbuck in the sense that, he's aggressive. He's gonna annoy the opponents. He's gonna get in their grill, but he can also put the puck in the back of the net if you need him to. He's got that feistiness to him, but also can score, which in today's day and age, you don't see as much in players anymore because the game is much less violent and all that than it used to be. So a lot of players don't have that side to them because they haven't needed to. Now it's about speed and scoring and all of that, where you didn't have to have all of that 50 years ago. Now it's much more rare to see a guy like Marcus Foligno, I think, at least. So I think there's value in that.
And he's a guy you want on your team in the
Yeah.
playoffs. I think he is the exact type of player that almost every team could benefit from having
Yep.
when it comes down to the playoffs, because he will grind it out, give you and I mean, it's not to say on another team he's a top two, top six.
Right.
He's certainly a third and fourth line appropriately here and elsewhere. But he's that guy that I think you want on your side
Mhm.
of the bench when it comes to playoffs, especially.
Well, he's the perfect third or fourth liner. You know, it's not like, oh, we're stuck with him. We got to throw him on a line. It's like you need him on that line because
Mhm.
if anybody who watches the Wild and sees Marcus Foligno's line get on the ice, you feel comfortable with you
Mhm.
feel like you're in safe hands. You know that they're going to get their job done, and when they get off the ice, you feel comfortable that they did what they needed to do. And it's sad because I just started my fan club, and if everything ends now, it'll all be for nothing. I got people tweeting at me. It's funny because, I tweet about him like 85 times a day. But
That's it?
yeah,
Okay.
I lowballed that one. I have people tweet at me saying exactly what you brought up, that he's now a viable trade at the trade deadline because of the way he's been playing. So I would be really sad to see him, Brody, and Zucker, anybody go. It's hard to see players get traded, but I think we could get the most for Zucker. And I think that uh, I'd be surprised if Brodeen left, if he got traded. But again, he's got a lot of value. He's a great skater, a reliable defenseman.
Mhm.
Also can put the puck in the back of the net for from the blue line. So he has value to him as well. But I just think knowing how close we came to seeing Zucker be gone before, I would not be surprised if he's one of the guys that go. But he has speed, and the Wild don't have speed. So every time I have this conversation with people, I'm like, you know what? I like that we could probably get something for Jason Zucker, but to see that speed be gone, I would have to hope that if they do get rid of him, they get someone in return who's just as quick as him, and then hopefully has other assets as well that would be valuable to the team. But that would be, I think, the hardest part to see go is speed.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I think you're right. He's the number one choice, or not choice per se, but he is. He's the one that's going to yield the most. And again, part of trading would be going back to our original point of, do you kind of shake it all up again in that locker room and start from scratch? Again, remember, this is not Bill Guerin's team.
No.
He inherited this team, so he's going to be, he's been very patient. We talked about that last episode, but
Yep.
it'll be interesting to see. I know I read Michael Russo's Athletic piece the other day, and Bill had told him he's taking phone calls, and as any good GM should
Mhm.
at all times by all means, but it means that it's that time of year where players probably aren't getting as much well rest at night as they as the vultures kind of start to circle and keep an eye out for guys that they could poach. So what do you guys think? Do you think that you want to see the Wild just kind of say, heck with it, let's build for next year? Or do you want to see them make a push and be that bubble team that we've kind of known? And I'm going to keep saying bubble team because I think even if they do find themselves in a playoff position, I don't know that you're going to see them go much further than we have in the past.
And they'll likely be a wild card spot if they do make
Right.
I mean, they'd have to win, 20 of their remaining 30 games or whatever it
Mhm.
is to get into the top 3 in the division, but yeah.
Exactly. And it's a tough division. It's a tough
Yeah.
conference. It's going to be one of those ones. I mean, technically, St. Louis is with 68 points, Colorado 62. Those are the only two that are kind of starting to run away with it a little bit, but it's at any given night things can change so quickly, as everybody knows. So it'll be interesting to see how they return from this break. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Again, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Shoot us a note and let us know. Do you want to see them rebuild and just start from scratch and build around Kaprasov, or should they try to make it work with what we've got? Add us and let us know. And before we head to our break with guest Pat Micheletti, we want to give another big shout out to our supporters who went down and over to sodastick.com to purchase their limited edition Bardown Beauties logo tees and hoodies. Bardown Beauties had a limited edition release courtesy of Soda Stick, so thanks so much for making our merchandising dreams come true. A big stick tap to them for helping us with this first launch. There'll be plenty more, so if you didn't grab your gear in this first run, we'll be sure to have another window open up on down the road. A reminder, toss down that Bardown Beauties code at checkout to receive free shipping on all of your purchases at sodastick.com. Now joining us, everyone's favorite Iron Ranger, who hails from a very long hockey bloodline. You can hear him on KFAN's Beyond the Pond, on Fanline, Westwood One Sports, with Jim Rich covering St. Cloud.
Yep.
What else we got, Pat? Everything.
Iowa Wild. Fan line.
Yep.
Did we mention that?
Mentioned that one.
I don't know. Wherever. I don't care.
You're everywhere.
You know what? Doesn't matter. We all love the game, right?
Yeah.
So we all want to be a part of it, and It's what we do.
Right. And in case you haven't figured it out, I suppose I haven't officially said your name.
Yeah,
That's Pat
that's
Micheletti.
all right,
guys.
They know who
Pat
he is.
Micheletti.
Okay.
Yeah. Pat, thanks so much for joining us on Bardown Beauties
It's
today.
great. I'm honored to be with you two today. Very honored.
We are honored.
Because this is what, episode
5? 5.
Yeah.
Took 5 to get. Thanks.
I tried to get you on 1, Pat. If it
I know.
makes you feel
Well,
better.
I know you did. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Well, we're here now.
Yes.
This is the first of many, I predict.
I
think.
hope so.
I think so.
Yeah, we'll see how I do today.
Exactly.
A little nervous.
It's an audition.
Yeah.
Let's kick things off
Yeah.
with Wild hockey. You're familiar.
Yes.
What do you, what do you think of where the Wild are at so far as we're on this break? Do you think the break came at a good time for the team?
Well, where are we at with the Wild? They're a 12th place team in the West. We have to be realistic. Here's what I will say. One thing I've noticed from a year ago or even 2 years and watching this team forever, they've worked hard all year. They have. And there hasn't been a game where you say, oh, boy, the effort wasn't there. Where there were times in the past that, we could just see that the effort wasn't there on certain nights. They've worked hard every night. Every win is a hard win. Even the game against Detroit, one would look at it and say it should have been an easier game. Mm-hmm. It was a hard game, and they've had to win a lot of hard games. 5 points out with this break coming up, but you have to climb 4 teams. Mm-hmm. Not impossible, as we all know, with the Blues.
Right.
But they're not the Blues. They're a different team than the Blues were a year ago. So, I think right now it's all about attitude and not looking at the standings and not getting down and just trying to grind it out and the old cliche, one game at a time and try to find some wins and get back in the mix.
We're about a month away from the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, this time, Paul Fenton really flipped things around
Yeah,
on
he did.
everybody.
Yeah.
Do you think Billy Guerin is the kind of guy who would do something similar? He seemed to be patient thus far, where there could have been points where he could have done something, and he's waited. Do you think he's going to make any big moves come end of February?
I think it would have to be the right deal. And I don't think we'll see as much movement as some people have talked about. There's a lot of names that we could throw out, and that's always tough because these players have families and they're they're part of the community and they're part of the team, and it is a business, we all know, and trades happen. But if I were the GM, I wouldn't trade anybody unless I got a better return. That's hard to do.
Sure.
But for where they are. Because if you're looking at it, let's throw out some names that would be potential guys that they could move. Jonas Brodin, Jason Zucker, Matt Dumba, Marcus Foligno.
He points at me.
He points at Alexis.
Fan club is crumbling.
Yeah, exactly, right? Eric Sinek, Luke Cunnin. They're young guys. And so I think what the management will have to determine is are these guys going to be part of what we're trying to build? Mm-hmm. And that's what they're going to have to answer in the next month. And I think if a great deal is there, they'll probably do it. But I really don't think that we'll see much movement.
Right. Alexis and I kind of had our own take at the beginning
what are your
of the show.
I'd like to hear that. I really would.
I guess we struggle with do the Wild sink the ship per se? Do they clean house and try to start all over and say, you know what, this is just not our year? Or do they continue to make that fight and make that climb and be the bubble team that we've seen them be? What are your thoughts? Which would you prefer to go with?
Well, I don't think you can clean. I just don't think it's possible to do that with the no move contracts. Mm-hmm. Now, if they really wanted to, and they went to the players who have the no moves and say, listen, we're rebuilding, and we want to give you an opportunity to win a cup or a chance to win a cup. Do they go to Mikko? Do they go to Ryan Suter? Do they go to Zach? Even Zuccarello, not Spurgeon, probably. They just signed him, and right. But if they went to one of those guys or a couple of those guys, that's the only way that they would be able to, move those no move contracts. So, and I don't think it's possible. Then you have to have a suitor for him, right? And who's going to want to take on a no move? The term of, I know Mikko's up and Stahl's got another year. I think he has a limited no move. Jason has a limited no move. So
And the age of some of those guys, too,
age.
right?
And guess what? Minnesota's not the only team in the league that wants to get younger,
Yeah.
But there might be a team that needs, boy, it'd be nice to have Foligno on our third line,
our
be
third line.
a checking role, right?
Yeah.
Especially heading into the
or
playoffs.
or even
Yeah.
a fourth line when it comes to playoffs, because you guys know that the playoffs are a completely different animal. Look at the Blues last year. I mean, they didn't beat up teams, but they wore down teams every night, and they played 4 lines. And their D are they're monster trees, right? And you couldn't get through them. And then Binnington was great. So it's really hard. I think it's really hard to move guys.
Well, and last year the Wild were the oldest team in the league
Yeah, right.
they made some of those changes that come the second half of the season. And I think the question of tank or fight has been going on for probably about a year. I would say it's
For
been
sure.
a big topic in Minnesota here. And I think last year when we made those moves, everyone was panicking. I was panicking. I'm like, who did we bring in? Who did we
Right.
get rid of? And now you look at it, and we got the better half of the deal on all of those
Yeah,
so far. I mean, Charlie signed the big contract
Yep.
in Boston, but
Yep.
you got Nino and Granny. As far as points go, we got the better side of that deal. So do you think that's maybe like helped fans a little bit? Say, if big changes come now, do you think they'll handle it better than maybe everyone handled it last year?
Well, the problem with the fans and with all of us, right? These guys, Charlie Coyle was here for 5 years, 6 years.
Right.
Nino was.
They were
Gra-
fan favorites.
Granny was.
Yeah.
Good guys. Everyone liked them. They were great to the fans always. And so it's like losing, your best friend, right? Because the fans connect to the players, and automatically, Victor Rask, like him or not,
Yeah.
he was the worst player ever.
Ever. Wow.
Hot
No,
take.
right?
Yeah.
Kevin
Yeah.
Fiala was the worst.
Yeah.
Right? When he,
Ryan
we were-
Donato was the only one who showed some promise when he
right,
came last
right?
year.
And guess
Yeah.
what? Everyone jumped on him.
Yeah.
Boy, he's gonna be this, that, and the other thing.
Well, because there was the immediate return that Carolina got in Nino, and
Yeah.
Boston got
Which
from Charlie
was a
too,
killer.
Right? Yeah.
That
For-
always
for the-
happens
for
to
the
us,
fan-
though.
For the fans, yeah. But now look at Nino this year.
Yeah.
He struggled. Look at
And Granny.
And Granny looks like he might be on the move
And
again.
listen, I had to, explain, in my view, why they did what they did. And, I got just, beaten on because of, because
Don't you
of-
love this job, Pat?
Yeah, exactly. But the question with Granlund, let's talk about Granlund. Were you going to pay him $8 million? Okay. Was he at $8 million? I love Granny as a player. I really do. I think he did, I think he's a centerman, but that's another topic for another day. But their problem was, and a lot of people thought, well, they could have waited and got more for him.
That's what my opinion.
yeah.
Okay.
When it happened
Yeah.
originally. Yeah.
I don't know that,
Yeah.
I mean,
And how long do you wait then?
right? I
Yeah.
mean, and rumors, he could have got this, that. I don't know. Only Paul Fenton knows, and Tom Curvers and the staff, right? And so, but when you look at it, Kevin Fiala's 23, and we've seen what he can do now. He still has a long way to go in learning the game and all that stuff, but his talent is off the charts. So I don't know. It's tough.
And I think, not to keep harping on those, but I think those changes needed to be made. I think
Sure
you look
they
at the
did.
team that was there and in place, and that team wasn't a contender. It
Right.
was not a contending team. I think you needed to move in, as much as it did pain to see just great guys and good hockey players leave the organization when they've become such a part of it. That foundation needed to be taken apart.
Well, their opportunity was, and you guys will recall this. I think they were second, third, fourth in the league. I can't recall, but Chuck Fletcher thought they could make a run, and they thought they needed a centerman to shut down Jonathan Taves. And they made the deal with Arizona to get Martin Hansel.
That was the worst trade the Wild have ever made.
Well, in retrospect, right?
Yeah.
And he's out of the league, and he had the bad back. And
Ask my dad about that. When he hears this part of the episode, he's going to cry because he still is not over
Jim,
that.
Tune in. But that team had a lot of chemistry, and then the deal was made, right? And I can't recall the other piece that they got in it from Arizona, but it
was Ryan White, wasn't it?
Yep,
Thank
Ryan
you.
White.
Yeah.
Thank you. So he jumped into the lineup.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was just a different team. Nothing against those two people. But it didn't work. They started playing bad. And then they played the Blues, obviously, in a series that they should have won. That they were better than the Blues that year, no question. And they didn't get great goaltending.
Right.
The Blues got great goaltending.
And that's the difference.
Series over,
Yeah.
right? So
I mean, and that's kind of the problem with the Wild too. They might make the playoffs, but they peter out in the first round. What do you think that needs to change in this team and even in the culture of the organization or something in order to make it past the first round, or God forbid, to the conference finals even? I mean, what are the missing pieces? And because I don't think it's just one. I think there are multiple things that need to happen in order for the Wild to truly become. And I don't think, unfortunately, it's in the immediate future. I think it's something that we have to look long term on.
Well, I really think you have to be strong up the middle, and I think you need you don't need a Connor McDavid. It'd be nice. You don't need.
I would take him.
You don't need a Sidney Crosby. But you need someone dynamic with speed through the middle. And they if you look back, they've never had that. If you think back to when they first came into the league, Wes Walz was a great skater, and a little dynamic, but he's more of a defensive type guy, right? He wasn't gonna. They need a guy who can put up 70, 80 points, who can change the game, who on a night when you're not when you don't have it as a team, that spark to get you the third goal or the tying goal or something, and they've lacked that.
That electric player,
Yeah.
right? I think Minnesota has not. Marian Gaborik is the only player that comes to mind.
Right.
That
No,
is that.
people will buy tickets next year when
Kaprizov.
when he comes.
Yep.
Kaprizov will be their best player, and he will be a star, and that's why I'm optimistic about the future.
Yeah.
Because if they're smart and they can move some pieces around, this team is loaded right now with a lot of bottom six players, good players, but they're bottom six, right? You look at that third line. I'd keep that third line together for the next 5 years, and have another team have to play against that line. That would be wonderful. Yeah. But they got to improve their top six. Now you can improve your top six in a hurry. Kaprizov, and you get a good draft pick, and all of a sudden your top six changes, right? You got Fiala, you got Zucker if he's still part of it, and then two other guys. Well, that's 4 or 6, and then you've got a chance.
Sure.
With the defense that you have, and that's why it's kind of with the top 4 defensemen that they have, right? They give themselves a chance to make the playoffs every year. They do. And so, but if they can improve up front, boy, all of a sudden, it doesn't take that long.
Well, and do you think maybe, at least this is the way that I felt about it, but do you think maybe there's going to be some hesitation by Guerin to make big changes, knowing Kaprizov is coming, and maybe saying, let's wait a year, see how he meshes with the team we have. Maybe they'll make little moves here and there come the trade deadline, but as far as those big name changes that people are kind of holding their breath on, do you think there's going to be maybe some hesitation just knowing Kaprizov is coming? Or do you think that'll make him want to make big moves even more?
Patience is tough in this town.
Yes.
Right? But I think if there's an opportunity to do something, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
I really.
If the right offer is there.
Yeah, I really believe that. I mean, there's going to be decisions that are going to have to be made on players this summer. No question about it. Well, what do you do with Mikko? His contract's up.
Right.
Does he still want to play? Do they want to sign him? And, we've talked about Eric Stahl. He's going the All-Star game, right? He's got another year in his contract, but he's going to be 36. And so, listen, what Eric Stahl has done offensively in the years he's been here has been, it's been terrific, right? Just think if they got a dynamic center in here and now all that pressure is taken off of him, he can be your second line center, right? And teams don't look at Minnesota and say, stop. We shut down the Stahl line, we win.
Yeah.
That goes away, because you got two lines that come at you. So it'll be interesting to see what Billy does.
Especially since he's a former player. I mean, he's got that competitive drive. You see it around him. I mean,
and he's won, so he knows.
Yeah.
Olympics, and Stanley Cups, and Hall of Fame, and so I think from a management perspective too, they're in really good shape. Tom Curvers is one of the sharpest minds, and great to have him as an assistant GM. Then you bring in Mike Madonna, who's played in the for so many years, and Billy. So you got two Hall of Famers, and so that it all starts at the top.
Right.
It does.
Yeah.
And so I think they're in really good shape, and patience. But I mean,
20 years. That's been patient, has it not?
This isn't their team yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Have they made a move? I don't think they've made a move yet, right?
No.
Right.
And so I think it's been a real good, maybe good for Billy just to see what he's got.
Yeah.
And Madonna to see what they have, and they'll come together and hopefully make the right moves.
And what do you think that means for Bruce as well, knowing
I don't know.
that this is his final?
That's really interesting. We've seen 8 coaches.
8.
8.
If you include Peters.
I mean, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Gallant and Vegas, they're
That
in the
blew
playoffs.
my mind. Yeah.
And,
Alexis
They
is
were-
still recovering
I'm
from
still,
Gallant being
yeah.
let go.
They were like 2 points out of first place when he got
3.
fired.
And-
3, yeah. It's
and I was talking to a college coach the other day, and I said, who I won't name, but whose name has been mentioned for a lot of jobs. And I said, what do you think? He says,
Somebody up in Duluth, perhaps.
he said, would you go? He said 9 guys, 9 really good or 8 really good coaches get canned. And so there's a lot of pressure to win. If you don't win, it's easier to replace a coach, right, than 20 players.
well, apparently, if you're winning, you can get replaced too, because Vegas,
point.
if that proved anything. I mean, what do
Isn't
you
that-
got to
is-
do? My
isn't that-
goodness.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
So who knows? I don't know. Bruce has done, I think, a terrific job.
He has.
And I say this because they could have, with 13 of 18 on the road to start the year, and the record wasn't great, and they were down. And to me, going 9-9 would have been great. That keeps you in the mix and not chasing.
You got to be 500 on the road.
And they were a little bit beyond that, and they were down and they got beat, and they could have gone really in the tank right then. And he kept them together. He kept saying, "You guys can play. You're good," and they went on this little run. It's fallen a little bit as of late, but that being said, to be able to keep the team together, and I think he's done a great job.
Well, in the past 2 years, he's had a lot thrown at him as far as having to deal with different trades. I mean, think about some of the injuries the Wild have had. This year they've been lucky, knock on wood, but last year they had a lot of big injuries. I mean, that's not easy to handle as a coach, and you expect at this level them to be able to handle anything, which in a sense, yes, they should be able to, but doesn't mean it's easy to take care of those problems. And I've always said, you can say what you want about Bruce, you can like him, dislike him, whatever, but he has handled everything that's been thrown at him in such a way that a lot of coaches wouldn't be able to.
No, I mean, think about it. And we know last year, I mean, there were times he had to play guys that he didn't want to play.
Yeah.
But he had to play them, because management wanted them in the lineup for whatever reason, either to showcase them or see what they could do or whatever. Now, as a coach, you want to win every game. That's why you coach, right? You don't coach to lose. and for him to I don't know, bite his tongue or just go along company line and do it, he did it. And so be careful what you wish for too. Be careful, because you may say, oh, thank God he's gone, or whatever the case may be. The next coach, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Right.
And Bruce is a great guy, and he's
The players respect him.
Players respect him, and I think the fans do too.
And from the media, we love him.
Yeah.
Right.
I love working with Bruce every single
Never
day.
disrespectful to you at all.
No, and he's
Answers
a
questions.
great guy.
And even in a time where, listen, we're not all happy every day, are we? or in a great mood,
Right.
But he still takes the time to talk to you.
Yep.
And so I think that's important too.
And switching gears a little bit now to college hockey.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned some college coaches. You're
Yeah.
familiar. How are things? You're a proud Gopher alum. Let's start there. How are things looking at Mary? I will always just call it Mariucci. I apologize,
I know,
but how are things looking
it's
at Mariucci?
3M at Mariucci, isn't it? Yeah.
Can't get used to that.
I see a lot of college hockey teams, and the one thing I've noticed is, there's talent galore, right? There's no doubt. And the Gophers are not short of talent. But, you look at a team like Minnesota State, right? You look at a team like Duluth. These teams are older and more mature. And this is no excuse for Bemidji or Minnesota or Wisconsin or whoever. But the maturity factor now in college hockey is so important. If you don't have older players, it's really difficult. And I always go back. I go back to this one. When I went to Minnesota, and we had a great recruiting class. One guy cost us a national championship, and that's Phil Housley from your hometown,
South St. Paul Packer.
because he signed with the Buffalo Sabres instead of coming to Minnesota.
Sure.
Same age, same class.
Yep.
And we had a great class: Corey Millen, Tony Killen, bunch of Wally Chapman. We had a bunch of first, second round picks. And me, ninth round, of course. But point being, we came in, and we weren't expected to carry the mail, right? We had Scott Bukestad, Butsy Erickson, Steve Griffith, Tom Hirsch, Dave Jensen, all Olympians, okay? And they were juniors and seniors, okay? And we just had to play the part. Play the role until it was our time. Now, especially at Minnesota, you've got young guys, freshmen and sophomores, who are expected to be your leading scorers, your leaders, when they're not mature enough yet.
Right.
And they're great players, and they're going to be great players, and they'll probably make it. But
They just need
when
more
you have
time.
when you have a bunch of those, it's tough. I look at St. Cloud this year. Last year, Jimmy Schultz, Ryan Paling, Blake Lazat, John Lazat, the list goes on of upperclassmen. They were a great team.
Yeah.
What happened, but they were as good or better than any team in the country, but they were older and more mature. And
and they got lucky that some of the guys chose to come back for another year rather than go play in the NHL. I mean, you had Jimmy who could have left.
Right.
You had Robbie. You had Pat. You had a big group of guys who
All those
wanted
guys
to
could
keep
left,
playing.
and they came back.
Yeah.
And that's why they were so good. But if you don't have that, it makes it hard to win. I mean, you have school, you have you're living away from home, all of those things come into play, and it's really it's not easy. So Minnesota, obviously they have to win the Big Ten title to go now to the NCAAs. In my opinion, they won't climb high enough. I don't know if they can do that. Hopefully they'll be better here in the second half. But it's just I think Bob's a really good coach, and he knows what he's doing, and he has a plan. So with that, if he can just keep guys a little bit longer in their careers, I think they're going to be real good.
And do you think, I mean, it's exciting for anybody who loves hockey, college hockey especially, to see the parity in college hockey now,
awesome.
right? I mean, but do you think that also kind of hurts the Gophers? It's no longer Minnesota kids wanting to go play for the U necessarily. It's, I want to go to St. Cloud. I want to go to UMD. I mean, it's exciting, but it's also kind of bittersweet to see, right?
Well, it's awesome to see, quite frankly.
Yep.
And we got 5 great programs, and we have 5 great coaches here. We really do. And yeah, it's the parity is because all these teams have upgraded their facilities, and they all have the same things. Now, Minnesota might have a little bit more than Bemidji State per se, but look at their arena is beautiful up there, and Tom Serratori does a terrific job up there. Boy, I wish WCHA was back, huh?
Yeah.
Don't get me started on that.
I was going to hold back on that question,
now that
Pat.
we did, no, I think what we need to do in college hockey, because we've seen the attendance go down, and not only at Mariucci, but at other places around the country. And, we're not college basketball. We're not college football. And we are a regional sport, right? Can you imagine now, with the 5 programs, how good that they are? In my opinion, every building would be packed because everyone still hates the Gophers, and those teams think that they're good, and they are. The St. Clouds, the Mankato's, Minnesota State, UMD, back-to-back national championships. You know what? Pride. Every one of them has pride. It's not like, it's Gopher weekend. Right now, the Gophers are on their schedule or whatever, or not on their schedule, and that's how they look at it. Before, they used to mark, the Gophers are coming to town. They don't do that anymore because they have, we're on the same level. We're better than they are. And quite frankly, UMD's proven that in the past, decade, right? And St. Cloud has, and Minnesota State has, and no one wants to play Bemidji every Friday and Saturday night because they come at you and they, they're a tough out, very tough out. And so, it's too bad that we're not smarter about how we can do things, in my opinion, but that's just me.
I love your hot takes, though.
Well.
Since you brought it up, and we'll just touch on it. What would you say that maybe the Big Ten, for instance, has to do in order to re-engage the fan base? I mean, I went to a game earlier this year. I got free tickets, courtesy of KFAN, actually, and it was empty, and it was heartbreaking to see. I was a gal that every Friday, Saturday, I'm watching Gopher hockey, and it was hard to get a ticket back then. And yes, we could say it'd be nice for the WCHA to come back. Fact is, it's not. We have to move on. But also, all the same people that seem to complain about attendance are not out there buying tickets to go to the games either, which always kind of frustrates me, where I'll throw that back at them and challenge folks that don't like the Big Ten. Well, buy a ticket, come support it. And, I mean, you don't have another option. What would you say needs to change?
Well, it's a dicey one because it always involves money, right? And we know the Big Ten Network supplies a lot of money to these schools. I wish that I really don't think. I think they have to look at it, each sport, differently. I really do. I don't think people would mind seeing a Michigan versus a North Dakota on the Big Ten Network. I don't think.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, right. Right?
Especially with North Dakota this year.
I don't think people would mind watching UMD versus Wisconsin or whatever. So I think the Big Ten Network should really open it up to letting other teams be part of it.
Yeah.
And get the coverage. If one Big Ten team has to be on there, fine. But even that being said, I don't think there's a problem in having a WCHA team against NCHC team, whatever. But I think that we all need to work together if we want it to be the best that it can be, because college hockey, you guys know, is terrific to watch.
It is
100%.
fun.
It's really a lot of fun, and because you got kids playing every Friday and Saturday night. It's the only nights they play, and they work hard and they're talented. And
it's that pride thing.
It really, really is, and it's gotten so much better in terms of depth. You know, all 4 lines can play, and so I just I think it's a great game that we got to kind of grab a hold of and fix it.
Who's your player to watch, you think, for the rest of the season on any team across the board? You've seen a lot
College?
of, college-wise.
I think Scott Perunovich is the best player in college hockey.
There you go.
I don't even hesitate with that. Granted, he is from Hibbing, but
No bias,
But
right?
I'll tell you why too. He was a sophomore in high school, and we interviewed John Mayasich, the godfather of hockey, the best player to ever come out of here, in my opinion, right? And I love the guy. He's just terrific. And he just out of the blue said to me, he said, I got to tell you something. And this is on the air. And he just, I was asking him questions. Stop. And he says, there's a kid who's a sophomore, and it's the best player I've ever seen come out of the Iron Range. I'm like, what?
Over you?
I said, who? God, I was like 100th. And he said Scott Perunovich, and I hadn't seen him. I know the family, and but I didn't ever get up to see him play, and I watched him play at UMD for the past 2 years. Now his 3rd year, and he just does things that are incredible, and he's a good kid. And I've seen a lot of players, but I just haven't seen anyone with the poise that he possesses.
Does UMD have a shot at going for
They
another
do.
title then?
Yep, without a doubt. They got swept last weekend by St. Cloud.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
In case you guys don't know, Alexis is a proud Husky over
Proud
here.
Husky.
She is. Excuse me. And St. Cloud was a desperate team.
Yeah.
They needed points. They got swept in Denver, played good, but they needed points. And Scott Sandelin's teams, they just trend. They trend, and they've been trending up. And they didn't play a bad series against St. Cloud. St. Cloud played good, and they got great goaltending, which you need, right? And Friday night, both of St. Cloud's goals go off of UMD sticks.
Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, exactly. And so that happens. But I think Scott does a terrific job at Duluth, and he's got a poised team, and they know what they're doing, and that's the thing. They may have lost 2, and they've got North Dakota coming this weekend, but I just think that they're a team that could be back in Detroit.
And we'll end it with one more hot take. Who's the Stanley Cup champ this year?
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a tough
It's a loaded
one.
one, yeah.
It really is.
I hate being asked that question because I'm like, oh God, do I go with like the obvious answer or do I
Yeah.
give like a super hot take? Like,
I was really high on Boston, but I'm not so sure about
they've kind of
Rask.
fallen off the wagon a little bit.
I'm not sure about Rask.
Yeah.
I like Tampa a lot.
Every year I like Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, and
Torts took him down last year. My
could-
favorite coach.
could be a wake up call, and they've got a terrific goaltender. In the West, who do they play in the West? That's a tough one.
I feel like it's always more of a toss up in the West than it is the East. The East always seems to be decided halfway through the season.
Probably 3 or 4 teams
Right.
in the East that in the West. There's 8
Yeah.
that make the playoffs that could go.
Yeah.
Because the style, you get out, you run a hot goaltender in a series, and you get confidence, and you just, well, we're gonna win. We're gonna win. Look at the Blues last year.
The Preds a couple years ago made
The
that big run.
Preds,
They were in
yeah,
the 8th seed
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah. It's,
I mean, Winnipeg.
Do you like
got-
Arizona with what they've got working now? I mean, I think.
I talked to someone in Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to make a deal at the deadline for sure.
Ooh.
At least they're going to try awfully hard to grab a defenseman. They think they're one defenseman short, and not necessarily a dynamic defenseman, a stay-at-home defenseman. They need another D-man. What scares me there a little bit is, can they trust Kemper?
yeah.
Or Ranta gets hurt, and every time he plays, he gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And so they may go. It wouldn't shock me if they go after another goaltender too. Can they, with Taylor Hall there? All the chips are in. All the chips are in, because if not, and if they're, put it this way: if they fall in the next month and are out of it, they'll trade Taylor Hall, because.
Poor Taylor Hall.
1 for 1.
Well, no, I mean they would, right?
Yeah.
Because they have to try
It's
to
going
sign
to be a
him.
while then before they're
They got to try
yeah.
to sign him. But I think they've got a chance. I really do. I think Phil Kessel can still play, obviously, and so I like their team.
Wonderful. Well, Pat, thank you again so
Well,
much.
I'm so
for
honored to
coming
be.
in. Oh, we love
It's
it.
great to be on.
So you'll
Thank-
listen to this episode then, right?
Yeah, I hope I'm invited back.
Absolutely.
Of course.
We've got plenty more episodes coming
Fred,
up.
you did a
so
great job.
Shout out to Fred.
Shout out, Fred.
Yeah.
Again, Pat Micheletti joining us. You can listen to him on KFAN's Beyond the Pond Saturday mornings and on Wild Fan Line following Wild home games. Thanks again, Pat.
Thank you.
And we're back for our final segment of Bardown Beauties, presented by Soda Stick. In lieu of our State of Hockey Spotlight, we wanted to try a little something different, new approach, and we opened it up to your guys' questions. We love hearing from everybody. Probably my favorite thing, because most of you are really nice too, so really appreciate that. So far, yes, we're only 5 eps into this.
I don't think anyone's bullied us yet.
No, not quite. That's not a challenge, by the way. But so we're going to have this mailbag every week as long as we get questions. So obviously feel free to slide into our DMs appropriately so, or shoot us an email as well. So to kick things off, we have a tweet here from HockeyMom_Alvin out in Colorado. She wants to know what our dream interview would be like, hockey related, alive or deceased, and why. Alexis, let's hear your take.
I always have like a weird one for this, and I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I've definitely talked about it before. I just want to be involved in a John Tortorella press conference. That's like my.
So as a person that's never been in a John Tortorella press conference, I don't know if you want to wish that.
I want to be bullied by John Tortorella. Like if I go my whole career and John Tortorella never yells at me to like shut my cell phone off or like bullies me or like tells me he doesn't want to answer my question, I have not lived yet. So there's so many cool hockey players I would love to interview, alive, dead, whatever, but a John Tortorella press conference, I want to be involved in one someday.
You know, maybe.
I'm
time.
crossing my fingers and
Yes.
toes.
There,
Yeah.
just make sure you turn your phone off or leave it on if you
No,
want.
I want him to bully me. I'm going to leave it
Yeah.
on loud. Yeah.
For me, I would say I'm very fortunate because, like I said, for my job, I get to go in the visitors room and the Wilds room. So I've been able to interview Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, Austin Matthews, all of those big names that we have now. I've also been able to, I know that one was for you, Alexis.
Thank you.
And then I've been lucky to interview even members of the 1980 Olympics team, the 1972 team. But I would say then Herb Brooks. I mean, him being deceased, that's one that I have obviously will never be able to have the chance to interact with and meet. And I just would love to pick his brain and really hear, how did you think so progressively and changing the way the game is played today? I mean, we played the style. I would talk to Rob McClanahan at Hockey Day Minnesota, and he talked about how he was not a dump and chase coach, and they had to switch up their game. But it's funny, he learned that from Herb because that's the way Herb had played. And again, he changed the whole dynamic. So Herb Brooks, for me, hands down, that would be an absolute dream.
That would be a good one.
Another one from Bo Marchwick on Twitter here. What are some resources that we use every day for writing on my side and Alexis for announcing on your side, and what makes those resources so valuable?
I would say for me, it's just listening to other announcers because I try to find announcers that I really admire and then take pieces of their work and incorporate that into the way that I announce. So like, for example, like Paul Allen's energy, like I try to take that and use Hyper A. Yeah. Different things like that, or, certain announcers on NBCSN, Fox Sports North, just watching the way that certain announcers break down the game or the way that they approach how they announce, different things like that. I think that's the most valuable resource, honestly, because it's just seeing the best in the business do what they do. And then I try to use that to my advantage and hopefully be as good as them someday. Probably not as good as them, but close. Would
Your
be
own
fun.
version of them,
Yeah,
right?
my own version of them.
I mean, for me, I'm a hockey junkie. I read every single thing that I can get my hands on. Every morning, that's kind of my routine. I wake up in the morning, get ready, have some, listen to some hockey podcasts, not necessarily Bardown Beauties all the time, other ones, I promise.
Just
It's
has
gonna
us
be
on
weird.
repeat.
Yeah, just creepy. But and then I read and read and read whatever I can just to not only stay current and up to date and make sure I know what the hell I'm talking about going into practices or game days. But just in general, I have an interest. I mean, that's the whole reason I got into this. I gobble it up. So that's really about it. And like Alexis, I mean, I watch hockey and kind of have it around me at all times. I do like to take a break. So that's not all I do. I promise my husband can attest to that because there are times when he wants to watch a game and I I don't.
I don't have a husband to attest to anything.
But yeah, and actually, Fred, Bo's got a question for you too. So let's get you in on this mailbag. He wants to know, what do you use? You're on the photog side as well. What resources are you using to handle that, and even producing this amazing podcast?
Well, I mean, from my perspective, it's a different worry that I have. I always need to make sure that the podcast is ready for any situation that we are going to run into. So when we were investing in equipment, it was what can do everything. So like the equipment, this is kind of technical nerd stuff, but it's like the Rode podcast board. You know, it has the ability to Bluetooth and all that stuff, and then making sure that the ladies have the microphones that they need, that they can record on the computer, but also put into the board. But as far as photo stuff, I've got a Canon 6D. See, this is all nerd technical jargon. Who the hell
Someone
cares?
listening is enjoying
They're
it.
like, oh my gosh, someone's writing all this stuff
Fred,
down.
I care.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't care.
Just do your work, Fred. Please, can you just get our podcast out on time? And
Yeah, is my mic too hot, Fred? Can you turn me down a little?
Oh, sorry. You're muted. Sorry. Bye-bye.
Shoot, didn't think of that. Didn't see that coming. We have another question, this one specifically for Alexis, from our favorite senior Butte listener out in the West Metro. Alexis, he wants to know, so your Twitter handle is not Alexis Pearson, which might have, I think might throw people off a little bit. And I'm going to butcher how to say this, so I don't want to. Mariana.
Yeah, you got it.
He wants to know, where does that stem from, and what's the story behind that? Is that your middle name?
It is my middle name. I hated it when I was a kid because I was like, nobody has that name. It's so weird. Why do I have that name?
Just not a Marie or an
Yeah,
Ann.
I was like, why me? And then as I got older, I was like, you know what? It's kind of cool and like unique, and I like that. It's my grandma's name. She is from Macedonia, which is in Yugoslavia, or what was Yugoslavia. I think it changed recently. And she was born in World War II. So I saw the email that he sent. He said, does that mean peace? And it does. Mir means peace in her language. And it was a popular name during World War II when babies were born because people wanted peace. So I actually didn't know that until probably about 5 years ago, though, that's what my name meant. So yeah, I like it now. And people butcher it all the time, so don't feel bad about it. Yeah. So that is what my middle name means.
Oh, I love it. That's so great. And actually, there's another one. There's a gentleman out there named Jim Pearson.
Never heard of him.
Never. I'm gonna make sure that we include a Jim Pearson question every week from here on out, because Jim needs more airtime, and I love it. I think maybe even do a call-in once in a while because he's got some good stuff.
Don't give him the power.
I am. Nope, Jim. This is my call out to you. Anytime. He wants to know though, what led us to covering hockey over all sports. Alexis,
Jim is what led me covering hockey. I mean, yeah, I grew up watching sports, and hockey was the sport I clung to, and I didn't want a boring job when I was older, and I was like, you know what? Covering sports seems like a way to avoid having a boring job, and hockey was my favorite, so that was the one I stuck with. And I've covered lots of other sports throughout my very short career so far, but hockey is far and away my favorite, and I could talk hockey all day.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a way to connect with my mom. I think she was a huge hockey fan, and it was kind of something that we could talk about. And I was like, same with you. Oh, I can get paid for this? That's very exciting. I've dabbled in a lot of other sports. During college, I covered football, swimming, track and field, baseball, lacrosse. I covered lacrosse out in Syracuse, New York for a bit. But hockey is just such a part of who we are as Minnesotans, I think. And the players are hands down the nicest people I have ever interacted with.
They're so great to work with.
I've been very lucky maybe that I haven't had any bad interactions, or even the maybe one or two that you could say were not ideal were really not that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I had one guy who maybe jumped on me for a little bit and then came up and apologized afterward. And I was like, oh, dude, no, don't worry. I get it. You lost the game and you were mad, and that's totally fine. But thank you for apologizing. I mean, it's not necessary. So it's just kind of that, and it's our sport, and it's always made me feel at home. Even when I was out in Syracuse covering lacrosse, which is huge. That's their hockey out there in Syracuse is lacrosse, and that was wonderful, and I loved covering it. But I also found myself gravitating toward the Utica Comets, which are the AHL team out there. And actually, that was fun. That was when John Cooper was out there, and it was kind of cool to see him elevate. But I find myself gravitating toward hockey because I love it. So that's
It
really
doesn't feel like work. That's what I always say.
No.
Like when people are like, do you like what you do? Do you have fun? Like, what's your favorite? Because like both you and I do so many different things. So people are always like, what's your favorite thing that you get to do? And I'm like, honestly, I love all of it. Like it doesn't feel like work. Like we go to Wild Games and we get paid just to sit and watch hockey and talk about hockey. And
Which there are some days it's not enough that I get paid to. No, I'm just
yeah.
kidding.
And some days it's painful when the game doesn't go well and the players are unhappy. That's never fun. But it is just like it. I'm like, I get to do this for work. Like that's so cool. And yeah, I hope everyone feels that way about their job that we do, because I think we're pretty lucky to get to do what we do. And
it's the sport I know the most about.
Exactly.
I mean, to be totally honest, I can learn other sports and I can know kind of the ins and outs, but hockey is the one I'm most comfortable with, which is, if you're comfortable doing your job, it makes it a little bit easier too. I think.
When you know what you're talking about, that helps. Yeah.
Yes. So great questions. Keep sending them in. We love to hear them. You can email us bardownbeautiespod@gmail.com. That can be found in our Twitter. Also, again, our Twitter DMs are open, Instagram as well, along with Facebook. So we'd love to hear it. Love doing clues each week. But again, thank you all for tuning in. Shout out to Soda Sticks for all of their help and love, and hopefully we'll love to see your gear too. If you guys ordered some of that Soda Stick gear, send us those pictures. We'll be sure to retweet them and do that. Fred, thanks for hitting up that board. Appreciate it, not muting us. And Alexis, thank you to you too. And shout out to Paul Fletcher as well for letting us use today's room with the little Pac-Man. We'll get on that. So thanks again. Tune in next week. Stay beautiful.